you're freaking going into the light, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, you have to do that at the end of the show. You have to say bye.
Bye, everybody.
But by the end of the show, it'll be dark, right?
No, do it slowly. Do it more slowly. It would be funnier, I think. Actually, if you turn around and face the light and then went into it, that would be awesome. That's great. Perfect. You have a long cable on your headphones, dude.
Yeah, they're grottos. They come with like a 10-foot cable.
Nice.
Because
That's
people
BA.
really need 10 feet of cable on their headphones.
They do
When I
if
was
you're
in the
like
grotto, I had
85
10
and
feet
sit
of
in the
cable,
chair and listen to your music in the living room.
I just need headphones that make me
I actually seriously wish that these
don't look like I'm a
that
fighter
these
pilot.
headphones had a 10-foot cable.
You could always buy a 3.5mm extension.
I know, and I did, and guess what? It made static on all
Yeah,
of the
it
lines.
wasn't shielded, so it caused
That sucked.
everything to have
It's
static.
probably around here somewhere, because I believe I just threw it over my head when I figured it out. I was trying to send it into the light, but we didn't have any here.
So...
A needle pulling thread.
Do you have a charger?
Do we want to...
Yeah,
Somebody want to talk about the dialer? Because Ryan's not on the show and he wrote the hands-on.
it's on in the yellow one down there. It's the Nexus charger.
Okay, go for it, sweet cheeks.
Can you dial
I
F
don't
for
think it's a
murder?
dialer.
The dialer can
Probably
be
want to
used.
set it up here.
Android
Can't. I would like to murder this dialer.
Now live. And
Murder.
I'm kind of like pissed off that they put the new dialer in 4.4.3.
You know, being pissed
it
off.
seems
is
really
It
out of
just seems
place
so
to
silly.
change something in such an in such an incremental update.
Well, let's be
Yeah.
realistic.
There's
How
like-
often do you use the dialer?
I use it.
Not very often,
Almost
but
every
still.
time.
Like,
What's the scratchy sound?
Like,
I hear that too.
What
It's really weird.
in the hell is it?
The really weird part is it seems to be happening in time with when you scratch your microphone.
I hate you.
So weird. We got to get to the bottom of this.
Get to the bottom of what?
Wait.
A beer?
Piper the DJ has retuned.
He has retuned. Well, that's good when you're a DJ. If you're out of tune when you're DJing, it's all bad.
Or might be it retuned.
It's Return of the Jedi.
No.
I think it's retuned.
Retuned.
Retweened. He retweened.
I see
That's like when you-
retuned.
I see you have retweened. And I'm happy about this.
With Nasonex.
Thou shalt not retweened.
Not even Piper can transcribe his own.
I think I will talk like this for
would
the
be
whole
nuts.
show. It is funny, no?
You should intro the, like.
Welcome to the Android Police Podcast.
Now it's time for the carrier 411.
It is time for the carriers of 411.
No, the carrier Quattro Uno.
Quattro uno uno.
I wonder if 411 is information in Latin American countries.
I doubt it. Now it's time for carrier.
Quattro Uno doesn't sound sexy enough for information.
can that be the hot sheet noise this week, Bob?
You have
I
to
would
have
enjoy
visual
that.
too. It is complete with visual. I will now play the WTF sounder. That
Why don't
is
we ever
really
use that on the show?
WTF. Because there is no longer a WTF section.
We could put Hodor keyboard in WTF. I'm just kidding. I'd rather die.
I don't
Oh my God, that's-
know. No.
Literally the funniest thing ever to hit the Play Store.
Artem's like that kid who learns his first knock-knock joke.
Knock, knock.
All the
God.
time.
That's really what it is.
Jesus, man. Oh my God. I remember when my kids first learned knock-knock jokes. They would be like, like the most just absurd knock-knock jokes that were not funny in the slightest. They'd be like, knock-knock,
Except
who's
with
there?
Artem, it's just like Hodor, 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 Hodor. That's going to be
Yeah.
Artem's kid's first word, Hodor.
Yeah.
I
They'd be
thought you were
like,
going to say
knock,
his
knock,
kid's first
who's
name.
there?
He's actually going to rename his kid Hodor Resikovsky.
It's a good name.
I've
It's
never
strong.
watched Game of Thrones,
Don't start.
and I don't know if I'm.
No.
Yeah, I'm
Don't
thinking I'm not going to
start.
start.
You will fall in love
It's
with
been-
things
it's
and they
been
will
too
die. They'll
You
be
will-
ripped
that
from
is
you.
that is exactly what will happen.
Oh,
You will-
spoilers!
yes,
Spoilers!
Yes.
It
You
seems
will have
like it's been too
everything
hyped
that
up
you
now.
care about in this world ripped away from you violently if you watch Game of Thrones.
Either ripped away from you violently or raped to death. I mean,
No.
it's going to be one of the two.
Hold on. I think we should
Seriously.
just have randomly. Cameron should just say Hodor.
I
Say
don't
it
want
in
to say
your-
Hodor.
You can't do that.
Mostly because I don't even like Hodor. I think he's a big dumbass, and I don't understand why he's so popular.
That's a very accurate description.
No,
That
he's
actually is.
so annoying.
That's the point.
Like, he's so annoying. Why do people like him so much?
All right, I'm getting
He's only
Reddit
cool.
updated.
He's only cool when his eyes roll back into the back of his head.
But
Do you
he's
think
not
that
doing
McDonald's
that.
will eventually have Hodor Happy Meal toys?
Oh my
But he
god.
is doing that, Bob.
tiny
unless you
little
wanna
brand
do a really
back.
existential
Also, is
conversation.
it just me,
Inside
or
of the
is that,
humanoid.
is it just me, or is Bran like the ugliest kid of all time?
I don't know.
I
who
mean,
that is.
Come on.
that
not
kid
the
is
He's like
dude,
11.
that kid is seriously hideous.
He's not as ugly
Hey,
as,
maybe,
as
like-
Jack Gleason or whatever that kid's name is.
Who the hell is
Some
that?
people start off
Deleting
ugly
the
and then
Dell
they end up
tablets,
not being
too,
ugly.
'cause who cares?
Hodor.
All right, we have.
Oh my god, yes, okay. Yeah. No, I think Bran's worse. But anyway,
Wait, Bran's worse than who?
Jack Gleason.
Nah.
No,
I can't
no,
sign off on that.
it's the ugly on the inside that makes him so hideous.
Yeah.
Jack Gleason.
I also don't watch Doctor Who, so I'm totally immune to all of these like TARDIS items.
That's good.
Oh yeah, I don't watch or like Doctor Who. So
Everything is a
I
TARDIS
can't
these days.
stand Doctor Who.
sweet, we all hate it.
I actually started watching Doctor Who only because the guy who played the Doctor is named Matt Smith, and I kind of got hooked on it. I'm not gonna lie.
Matt Smith likes Matt Smith.
Yes, it was very meta.
I just feel like I hear
who
about these
just
things
watches-
and then I hate them because it gets annoying hearing about them so much, so then I don't want to like them.
Right. I'm with you on that.
Oh,
Because I don't wanna turn
got
into
a
that person.
new. We got a new server-side IRC client thingy.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it messed up
Yes.
last
Which
week,
last
did.
week.
so I had to embed the new one.
By the way, that reminds me, David, you need to send me your address.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'll just.
Oh yeah, that reminds me, Matt. I need to send you a thing, and I forgot to ship it. But I'll
Okay,
do
you
it
don't
with
have
this.
to.
That
I'll
reminds
do it
me.
this week. No.
Everybody.
I feel like I owe it
you
to you,
saw-
actually.
I want something fun.
Hmm?
Is it a Sailor Moon costume?
It is not a Sailor Moon costume.
Ah.
I'll send you a Sailor Moon costume, Bob.
Okay, I'll wear it if you do.
Do you have one?
Maybe.
You just pulled it up. I'll totally send you one.
Yeah, I'll send you.
I thought that
I mean, I don't
All
wear
right,
it
Matt.
anymore.
You
got
got
it
it.
for a review
See it
unit.
in your inboxer thingy.
A Sailor Moon review unit costume.
Sailor Moon review.
Okay, so why can't I connect? It keeps timing out on the IRC thingy.
Because you are not doing right.
Reboot.
Purdue.
Purdue? You kidding me?
Purdue.
Oh my God. The
Bob,
chicken?
did you just pass up a Purduer I hardly know her joke?
He did.
Wow.
Good chance I did.
Purdue.
Scuttlefield said that he binged a bunch of episodes, and I thought that he meant, like, I read it as binged, and I was a little bit repulsed.
Question: How do
Why
you
would
turn
you use
off
that
the
as a verb?
noises?
I binged a bunch of
I
episodes.
totally
and now I'm
binged all
hooked.
these episodes and read the synopsis with Bing search, and I totally
Yeah,
love the
I thought
show
I was
now.
gonna barf.
Thank you,
Mute.
Microsoft.
He's like, I bought a Samsung Fascinate, and it had Bing as the default search engine, so I've been hooked ever since.
Hey, you know now on iOS 8, you can have DuckDuckGo.
Yay! That's good news for them.
Also, I could
DuckDuckGo.
not.
Yay
It
for
is good news for
DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo.
Good for you guys.
Yeah, I'm happy for them. I mean, that's cool.
DuckDuck, go back to Google if you want relevant search results.
Their interface is actually pretty cool, but I feel like it's too trendy to have staying power. Like, I just know that it's going to change again in a year. You know what I mean?
It's a fair point. As funny
I
as
know
that
exactly
statement is,
what you
it's
mean.
too trendy.
Yeah.
Too trendy.
The thing is that Google's layout is simple, but it lasts a very long time. But things that rely on design trends are not going to last very long.
I'm going to start the show. Is that cool?
You go ahead and do that.
Yes.
Yeah, but we're just gonna keep talking about other shit.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to do that again because my audio level was peaking. So let's try
Was crispy.
it. So crispy.
Rice Krispies.
Is it still crispy? Welcome to the Android Police Podcast, your weekly audio source for all things Android. It is Thursday, June 5th, 2014. I'm your host, Matthew Smith.
I'm David Ruddick.
I'm Cameron Summerson.
I'm Liam Spradlin.
And I'm the guy pressing buttons. My name is Bob Severance. Welcome to the show.
All right, guys, we got a pretty big show this week, lots to cover, so we're going to get started right away with some Carrier 411.
Carrier 411.
All right, so we've been hearing about it for a while. Sprint has shown their desire to buy T-Mobile for quite some time, and it now looks like we might be just one step closer to that being a reality. David, so what's new in this courting here?
So basically, Bloomberg says that Sprint is close to finalizing terms for T-Mobile buyout of around $30 billion, which interestingly is about $9 billion less than what AT&T offered for T-Mobile a few years ago, and subsequently ended up having to pay T-Mobile for because the FCC was all like, "No way, Jose," and AT&T was like, "Aw." So the interesting thing here is that Sprint and SoftBank, they can get this past the FTC, or the FTC and the FCC. And that seems far from assured at this point, even though Sprint's kind of an underdog carrier too, and T-Mobile's an underdog carrier, and they can together make an overdog carrier, I guess, by combining their powers in a Voltron-like yellow and pink fashion. I'm uncertain as to whether or not regulators would go for this really bad meandering analogy. So we'll see what happens, and a lot of obviously big Sprint fans, or excuse me, T-Mobile fans, because Sprint doesn't have big fans. Let's be realistic. Aren't exactly happy about this news because they love them some John Leghair, and if John Leghair goes, then they go. So we'll see what happens.
Maybe
Sprint
they can
is
do
the
one of those.
largest spectrum holder in the U.S., so that is something to note.
Maybe they can do one of those reverse double under purchase things or whatever that SoftBank did.
Reverse double under, is that even legal?
It was Metro PCS that did that.
I hear gunshots outside.
Where you get bought and then become the company that you bought, something.
I'm going to take cover shortly.
You're going to take cover.
Shots
All right,
fired.
let's move on to the rumor roundup.
It's time for the rumor roundup.
I played that one because I knew how much you hate it, Matthew.
Thank you.
And I aim to please myself.
All right, well, Amazon also aims to please. And starting on June 18th, they're hoping to do it with a brand new piece of hardware that may or may not have some relevance to this podcast. David, talk about it.
They could unveil. It's going to be a phone because somebody, basically went frame by frame through that YouTube video and realized the woman holding the phone. There's like she's obviously holding a phone and going wow. So obviously 1 plus wow equals phone. So they're going to unveil a smartphone next month, and you can actually sign up to attend the event even as a Amazon customer because they would love people to be there and clap for Jeff Bezos because journalists really don't like to clap at press conferences. It's just kind of a thing that happens. So if you want to go be a clapper for Amazon, you can go sign up to do that when they unveil their phone. Presumably that phone's going to have a bunch of cameras. It's going to have some kind of parallax user interface, and it's going to do other 3D things, maybe, which I don't really, having not obviously seen it, it's very hard to envision a way in which having a ton of cameras on your phone just for the sake of a user interface is in any way useful in, like a functional sense. Like, what am I going to get out of this? But I'm sure Amazon, it obviously can't be a complete gimmick, hopefully. So we're probably going to see a Fire OS phone with a lot of cameras on it. And judging by the video and the ways in which various viewers of the phone were arcing their heads at odd angles, we can assume that the whole 3D user interface is going to be a thing. So yeah, it's going to run Fire OS, and because the Amazon App Store is full of Android apps that have responsive design for phones, it'll probably have a bunch of apps right out the gate.
Yes. I think, I don't know, does anybody else think that they're probably going to use all that cameras for, like, touch-free gesturing? Like maybe gesture control?
Maybe.
It seemed like it would enable that. I don't know.
See, I don't know about everybody else, but I like touching stuff.
Me too.
Not sure, why I wouldn't want to touch my phone.
I also I find it hard to imagine the utility of having, like, there are already phones that have touchless gestures, so I'm wondering, like, what extra value that many cameras would bring, if that makes sense. Like, I can't imagine what else they could possibly do. But I guess that's why everybody in the video was saying, wow, right?
Well, they could give some internet commenters a chance to make a really forced NSA joke. They could do that.
Well, I'm looking for somebody to do gesture control that works and is not gimmicky. Because the person that gets it right, ultimately, some of these things that we now take for granted, it changed once there was a paradigm, like things like haptic feedback, or, if we get the right type of feedback, then gesture control can actually work. I think until we get there...
In a phone, though, I'm not really sure, because it's kind of... You're holding the phone, but then you can also do gestures, or it's on the table, but it's flat, but then you do gestures over it. Like, any possible scenario to me seems awkward. But then again, I'm not the one coming up with new phones, so possibly someone has figured it out.
Well, typing on a touchscreen seemed awkward to us 7 years ago, too, but it's now commonplace.
I think
personally, I think haptic feedback is.
What I really want to do is I want to create an app for this phone that is just a person standing there whistling, except it detects when you're not looking at the screen and flicks you off, and then when you turn back, it starts whistling. Perfect use of this.
Yes.
I have no idea what that means.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Moto 360 because there was a video that came out this week that might or might not have had a final build of the Moto 360 in a particular frame there, and it left at least me with a little bit less of appreciation for the product. David, what did you think?
It's huge. Really,
that's what he thought, Matt.
Looks pretty big, pretty large. We don't know if this is the final model of the watch, and everybody posted a photo of that Motorola engineer with who I can only assume has like superhumanly large wrists, on which it looks much smaller than it does on the Google developer wearing the Moto 360. But then they showed the 360 and the G Watch together, and it's like they're both gigantic. Like the G Watch is huge too. It has a gigantic screen. Compared to the Galaxy Gear, the G Watch is huge. The Moto 360 is huge. They're all ginormous, and I don't know how I feel about that. Because obviously Android Wear is they're going at it from an always-on philosophy. So even if you're not looking at the watch, the time is displayed. I think LG already said they were going to do that, and I think Motorola kind of implied it too. And so I feel like the way they're resolving that is by making the watches giant so they can stick bigger batteries in them so that they can be on all the time, and I don't know how that's actually going to work out in reality. The Moto 360 also looks really, really thick. And so everybody was quick to say, oh no, it's an engineering prototype. That's why you don't make something you can wear it thicker than it needs to be for engineering purposes.
Maybe it's a pocket watch.
It kind of looks like a pocket watch.
It's a pocket watch for your wrist.
Right.
I could
a pocket watch for your wrist. I like that. That's
I
a good.
could possibly.
It's a good episode title.
I could possibly believe that an engineering prototype would be bigger, like looking at the early glass prototypes that were huge and ridiculous, and now it's small and ridiculous.
At least you still said
that
it was
kind of thing
ridiculous.
does happen, but it's so late.
Exactly, it's
so late in the game at this point that like there's no way that they're still dealing with big chunky blobs, you know.
Yeah,
I hate big watches.
The only thing I could see is like if they plan on selling it in like 2 different display sizes, like the Moto 360 Mini and the Moto 360 Large, and one's going to be more expensive than the other.
You
I
can
can
get
see that
pancake
because
size
if you
or
were
regular size.
actually I could see that. If you were a woman who wanted a smartwatch, you really would not want the gigantic super Moto 360 because it just,
Women
it
wear
looks
those
really
big
weird.
sunglasses. They might.
But they don't
want
wear big watches, not generally speaking. I don't want to generalize.
Not yet.
Oh my God! Maybe they could get 2 of them and wear them on their face. Could I have 2 giant Moto X's?
Like Glass 2.0.
Google Glass.
You could have
Glass for Valley Girls.
Displays. You wouldn't even need eye makeup anymore. You could just do your eye makeup on the digital displays that are facing.
Actually, I believe if you wear 2 of them, you're actually you just turn into Vin Diesel from Riddick.
Nice.
Oh my God. Good old Riddick. That guy kills people with cups.
He does. He does.
He's like, I'm gonna kill you with this cup, and that dude's like, what? And then he's dead. He's like, bitch, I told you.
And that's why I enjoyed Riddick.
2 exactly. Vin Diesels, 1 cup.
1 Vin Diesel,
1 Vin
1
Diesel,
cup,
1 cup,
1 body.
1 Vin Diesel. 1 Vin Diesel, 1 cup, 1 dead guy.
That sounds like 2 girls, 1 cup gone wrong.
Yeah. Or gone right.
Oh yeah, actually, good point. Touche.
All right, so the glass is always half full.
Ew.
The cup, as always. Sorry. All right, so EV Leaks had a pair of leaks this week. They were both Verizon related.
I had at least a pair, Matt.
You had at least a pair.
Of leaks.
The first of which was a Big Red branded Xperia Z2 tablet, and of course the second one was an HTC One Remix, which appears to be just a Verizon branded HTC One Mini 2. No word yet on pricing or availability of either of these items. All right, let's move on to Code Google. All right, so we've been hearing about it for a while and lots of things floating around about Android 4.4.3, but it is officially live this week. It's rolling out to various devices, and it is live in AOSP. So, Cam, what do we know about 4.4.3? Anything?
Well, yes. All the stuff you just said. We know all that stuff. I mean, that was basically
they
all
should
there
call
was
it
to
the
talk about.
Exterminator because it kills a lot of bugs.
Ooh, I see what you're saying.
The Exterminator build. So yeah, but it's now live in AOSP, so that means people can download it, do things with it. Basically, like the Cyanogen mod guys, AOKP, Paranoid Android, whatever, or
all
you
those guys,
you people. You people who listen, you could download it too and do things if you.
Isn't Paranoid Android still on Android 4.3?
I think it is, but maybe they can be on 4.4.3 now if they want to be. I don't know. I don't keep up with the custom ROM scene, so.
You just
All right, so
add a 4 to the beginning. It's easy.
You're already on 4.3. Just
What?
put a 4 at the beginning. I like it. I like it.
I don't understand these developers. It's one number, for Christ's
Just come
sake.
on, guys. It's a number.
Just find every string that says 4.3 and put a 4 at the beginning.
You know, honestly, you could probably, it'd be a great experiment just to give somebody an updated build that just changes the system version number and the build number and the about menu. And then people, the amount of satisfaction people would derive from that would be equal.
They'd be like, oh my god, my phone is so much faster now. I'd be like, ah ha ha, you got the sugar pill update, bitch.
Awesome.
Oh.
All right, so I'm going to go completely out of order here, and I'm going to talk about the Google Dialer, because even though that's not the next topic on our chart, it should be. So for some reason, in an update that was mostly just bug fixes, they did introduce a new dialer. So Liam, what's new with the new dialer?
Yeah, the dialer's new. It has, instead of its previous layout, it now has history right on the top, and then your speed dialer, frequent contacts right below that. And instead of having just a gray silhouette for contacts that don't have pictures, which in my case is almost everyone, it has these little colored blocks, just like Gmail. So that's cool. The dialer has been redone to use Google's new favorite blue color. Elsewhere, we still have history. There's a button on the front for all contacts, which is cool. There's an overflow button that uses squares instead of circles, even though the rest of the app uses circles. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Liam, I have to really ask you.
Mm-hmm.
You used the word cool twice in that description, and one of which was a bunch of squares with letters on it. And you said, that's cool.
It is cool.
You seriously think that is cool?
It's hip to be square.
Yeah, I do think it's cool because it's a consistency thing. Like they were doing it for Gmail for contacts.
Are you sure you're not regressing to preschool and it just kind of makes you feel like you're organizing the blocks, Liam? Come on.
I mean, that's exactly what it is. Users love to organize blocks.
That is
love to organize blocks.
What a profound statement that is. Users do love to organize blocks.
They do.
Some of them
it's
do.
a fact of interface design.
I actually
inside we're
do
all
like
just
to
3
organize
years old.
blocks.
I definitely prefer this to our previous
Aren't we all?
tangent on circles.
Hey, I love circles. All about them. Everything is going to be a circle in Android 5.
I'm not a big fan.
I'm sure my
not a big fan of
2-year-old
circles.
would love the blocks.
The next version of Glass is going to be a circle.
Because now it says,
Oh my goodness, I'll hate it even more. That would be fantastic.
No, you'll love it because it's a circle. It'll be great.
But I don't like circles. I'm not a big
well.
fan of circles. They're
It'll
okay.
be
Some
good.
things are better as circles. Like this knob, for example. It's better as a circle because square knobs just don't make sense to me.
See,
I do
think
like
I
a
would
circular
square
knob.
Yeah.
Square knobs are more tactile, though. You can grip them.
They
like,
might be, but this is a knob that goes on a guitar. I can't imagine reaching down for my volume knob and hitting a square.
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
See,
I
my-
can't.
I
because I
have
have
a-
like a guitar,
I
but
can.
I have a gigantic
imagine-
volume knob on my stereo. I
like
love my
turning a
stereo
knob.
volume knob. It's so big and circular.
I want
You
square
can't adjust a
knobs.
circular knob with a wrench, which is something that you do with
Yes, you
knobs all the
can.
time.
You could totally could with us. I think with like one of those.
You could, but it's not ideal. A better experience is a square knob with a wrench.
Circle wrenches are called squenches.
Squenches.
Right.
That's a fantastic neologism.
I really hate that I already made my tangent joke because we're going off on a tangent. I can't say it twice.
Speaking of squench, that's the word that Wendy lady said in the movie Hook. Give me a squench. See? She just wanted to turn her round knob. I never knew this.
Oh.
Can that please be the end of the tangent? Because we're going downhill really fast.
Let's talk about Project Tango. Let's talk about Project Tango.
So.
Let's go back to where we should have been.
Project Tango? What's that?
See, what happened is the tangent started because I went out of order. That's what killed
Well,
me.
when you tango, you are technically going tangentially.
Is that really a technical description of tango?
Where do you think the word tango came from? It comes from tangent. So there you go.
I feel like you just
came from mango.
Completely.
And Tang is the drink the astronauts took to the moon. And Mustang Sally, you better slow that Mustang down.
All right, so Google announced the. We're never gonna finish.
Yes, we will.
So Google announced the Project Tango tablet that we heard rumors was in development, and it's now officially announced, and it's got some pretty impressive specs to go along with a pretty hefty price tag. But David, you're gonna tell us why that's not really a big deal, right?
Right, because only developers need the advanced dancing algorithms that Project Tango provides.
The advanced dancing algorithms?
The advanced dancing algorithms. Why do you think it has 3D
cameras?
cameras?
It's Tango.
It's to analyze your dance.
Nice.
Analyze your tango. I'm not sure I was going with that.
I'm sure that, who is it, Roger Miller or whoever the studio of the ballroom dancing, that dude's going to love it.
He's all over Project Tango. That's actually the name of his class on Thursday.
Is Project Tango?
Yep. Totally.
Nice.
So this is a 7-inch tablet with 4 gigabytes of RAM, which we'll get to that in a moment, and 128 gigabytes of storage, powered by Tegra K1. It costs, wait for it, $1,024, because Google has a sense of humor. So first things first, it's a tablet development kit. In other words, this is not for you unless you equal a developer.
Can we just say it costs a gig?
It could be a meg.
It could be a meg. It could be a kilo.
A kilo.
It could actually it could just be 1,024 bytes.
Or a peta.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Exo.
Yeah.
Tera.
Yeah.
It costs a $1. I like a $1.
I don't like Gigadollar. I think it's dumb.
Actually, so anyways, this is going to be available later this year. This actually follows a Wall Street Journal rumor where they said they're going to make 4,000 of these things, which isn't enough to give everybody at I/O one. So I don't think it's going to be the general gift they give people. They might give out some, maybe. But the fact that it's going to be such a limited development run, and the fact, especially as Cody was talking about earlier when we were discussing this, it's such a niche device from a development perspective. There are so few developers out there that are working on things that involve augmented reality and utilizing three-dimensional space with sensors, that this really isn't an interesting device for a lot of developers out there. There are some developers who obviously want to experiment with it, and then there's an even smaller group who actually are actually developing this kind of technology right now. So it doesn't really make sense as a kind of general developer distribution device, and that's probably why it costs so much money, and it's probably why you have to sign up to try to buy it. So we'll see what Google does with that. But this really isn't indicative of anything. It actually looks like a Tegra Note 7 chassis that this is built on, at least very similar with those front-facing speakers, which makes sense since it has a Tegra K1 processor. So NVIDIA probably partnered with one of their existing OEMs to build this thing, whether that be EVGA or I think it was PNY make one, and Zotac or something. And maybe it's one of those guys that made this tablet. We don't exactly know, but the whole point is having all those extra sensors. Has a depth sensing sensor, a 4 megapixel ultra pixel camera on there. It's not necessarily HTC's camera, but it is a 4 megapixel ultra pixel camera because it has a 2 micrometer pixels on it. And then there is another camera for 3D stuff, I think, and then there's a front facing camera with 120 degree viewing angle. which is very wide. So this thing's going to be able to see a lot of stuff. It's going to launch with the Android KitKat, exact version number not specified. This is the quad-core version of Tegra K1, so it's not 64-bit. But the quad-core version of Tegra K1 actually is a 40-bit processor in terms of the way the memory addressing works. So it has a physical addressing extension built in, so it can actually use 4 gigabytes of RAM as opposed to the around 3 gigabytes most 32-bit processors can address at maximum. That being the practical rather than theoretical. So this is going to be available again later this year, and you probably don't care about it because you'll never actually use one, and it's probably in no way indicative of Google's hardware plans.
So I think that Tango is cool, but I'm having a hard time thinking of any damn good use for all this. Like what could possibly be? I don't know. What is something that all these sensors and this sort of visualization? Can you think of anything
indoor
that
mapping
would be cool?
Indoor mapping is a big one.
Indoor mapping is the only. I mean, that was basically when they announced Tango what they said. Hey, check it out, indoor mapping. But what else? I mean.
Indoor mapping is
reality is there are so many.
Yeah.
I mean, augmented reality. I kind of think right now as it exists is stupid because it doesn't work very well. But if you have something with dedicated hardware to that, it's different. So like if you're in a sales room situation, so let's say you're a car dealer, and you have a tablet with all these sensors. What you can do is have a dedicated area of your showroom that's empty. And let's say a customer comes in like, I want this car, but I want this color interior, this color exterior, I want these options on it. So you whip out this tablet, and this tablet can display in that blank area of your showroom what that car would look like. You can open the doors and stuff, and as you walk around with the tablet, it's like you're actually walking around the car because it has all these extra sensors, and so it can do these neat things. I'm not saying that would actually become a thing, but that's got to be a big part of what they're looking at. Are these customer experiences?
Something like that would be pretty badass for people who remodel houses then.
Yeah, I'm sure that's another big one too.
That seems like a pretty practical.
IKEA would be all over this.
Well,
the Property Brothers will use it on HGTV.
See, I was actually thinking about the Property Brothers when I said that. So.
This device is important for 18 months from now, when this type of technology becomes commonplace in our everyday devices. And I think anything that Google can do to give developers a head start on developing for this type of technology is really cool. But the thing that, when everybody thinks indoor mapping, they think, oh, I can take a virtual tour through something. But it's like, no, with indoor mapping of this magnitude, you can basically do spatial awareness, which is more important than just having an indoor map of something. Think iBeacons or beacon technology without the beacons. That's really what we're looking at here.
Can it tell when it's falling and stop?
Right.
I'm sure it could.
The other thing, I could see this being really huge.
It's on the inside from spinning because there are hard drives in phones. That's how they work, Matt. And floppy disks.
Does it start to alert when it realizes it's inside of a washer? Because that's what I need.
No, but instead of outfitting your business, for example, with $10,000 of beacons so that you can have contextually aware messaging and branding and advertisements to your customers, you can now just have somebody walk in and map your store, and devices will be able to automatically, without any technology other than the sensors that are pre-built in, know where you're at. So it's kind of like an open standard, which is space, is the open standard.
It's also the final frontier.
It is. I just totally made all that shit up, and it doesn't make any sense, but it sounded good.
I think the other thing here is...
Liam, I think you had something to say.
Yes, I do have something to say. I think the other thing that's going to be really big, especially for indoor mapping, is accessibility implications. So like a blind person, if that space has already been mapped, then it can alert them using audio cues where they are in relation to certain stuff. You know what I mean? True. Plus gaming on the less serious side of things, but I think that would be a big use.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of think that too.
Yeah, like if you want a game where you actually just go shoot people in your house.
What if I want to catch Pokemon in my house?
Okay, you could do that too, but I think shooting people
Pokemon
would probably
Snap
be
for
the more
Project
popular
Tango.
use.
Yeah, Pokemon Snap for Project Tango. That's what I
Oh
want.
my god, Pokemon Snap.
Aside
miss
from
that game
real
so much.
Pokemon, I mean.
I remember renting that for, that's in what, Nintendo 64? Or was that GameCube?
God, I don't even remember.
I think it was GameCube, right? Because it wasn't early enough to be in
Yeah, I don't think it was
You
either.
probably rented it for who the F cares.
Probably.
I make fun of Pokemon Snap.
Pokemon. Gotta catch them all.
It was for Nintendo 64.
We are experiencing.
I remember that was still in the age when I would when I was a kid, I would pine to go to Blockbuster to rent new games.
Oh man, Blockbuster.
1999. That's when Pokemon Snap came out. And I remember renting that game because my parents wouldn't let me buy it. And it was too much. And I remember savoring in that game for like days on end with the rental. It was a good game.
Back in our day, Matt, we didn't have no Pokemons, and we liked it.
Right, we had Tamagotchi, and we liked it.
We had the Tamagotchis.
I was all about Tamagotchi.
That's the episode title. I was all about Tamagotchi.
Taxahatchee Wamagotchi. All right, so moving on. Let's talk a little bit.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about Android TV because it's rumored to be launched at Google I/O, and so is the Project Tanglet Tableau.
The Tanglet Tableau on sale now.
Tango tablet. So maybe we'll see this one at I/O since the tablet debuted early, right, Liam?
Yeah, Android TV. GigaOM says that it's coming at Google I/O with Pano interface and hardware partners. So Android TV, which I kind of think it was pretty easy to predict that Google was going to go the platform approach with this and not the hardware approach, where they basically provide the platform and then hardware partners can come in and make their own devices or put it into their TVs. That was their whole approach with Google TV. The Pano interface is something that we've seen a few references to in recent teardowns, but basically the explanation that GigaOM gives, which makes a lot of sense, is that Pano will provide kind of like a conduit for content providers to provide their content. So instead of each content provider having their own interface, they would instead use this framework to create a card interface based on the content that they want to provide. So basically, it's kind of the same thing that Glass already does for like the kind of, you can make an app that's just based on existing card frameworks that can interact with things in certain ways. Just to make it easier and a more consistent experience, which makes sense because Google's whole goal with this, according to The Verge's report, was to get the user to the content that they want from turning on within 3 clicks. So you're not going to be able to ensure that that happens if everybody's making their own app interface.
Okay.
So I think that's part of their approach.
All who believe Chromecast is going to screw over every single TV venture Google attempts for the next several years say aye.
Probably aye.
I don't think so.
I don't think these can coexist.
No, I think they can because Google's taking the platform approach. So Google has Chromecast, and that's their deal. Like their inexpensive device for like you just want to use your device and like stream something to it. But then the hardware makers who make TVs and boxes and whatever can do their own thing and use Android TV, and people who buy a smart TV can have that. And it'll be 2 kind of separate roads to the same
Smart TVs are
goal.
a terrible product, though. A smart TV box,
They are.
I can get behind, but smart TVs are just shitty. They really are.
Smart TV manufacturers disagree, and if they have a platform that's consistent and that they find out people actually like, then that would be appealing to them.
All I see here is that Google is just giving Roku and Apple TV another year to get ahead and make Google even more pathetically behind than the TV space. It doesn't make sense to me that they're doing this.
I think that the TV space in general doesn't make sense, but I think that Android TV makes at least a little bit of sense. Adoption is the key thing. I mean, if manufacturers don't agree to ship it, then it's not. I mean, even if they do, Google TV was a terrible product and it failed. So, if Android TV is better, maybe it has a chance.
I don't feel that's the thing for me though. I feel like there's this in the TV space. You have people who currently subscribe to a premium cable service and, pay a lot of money to some horrible cable provider and have a box, and the boxes suck universally. They're all way overpriced. They don't do anything cool, and that's why things like TiVo really took off, and that's why you have like DirecTV really pushing the power of their box over a cable provider's box with the Hopper and stuff. But then I feel like you have the other side of people who don't want a cable subscription and they just want their internet TV. And you have things like Roku and Chromecast and Apple TV, which are all very low cost for those people, and they provide those needs. I feel like the middle ground where you have this thing that maybe is like $150 or $200 is like non-existent and has never, ever actually worked. And it still looks like Google TV is trying to get in that space, because if they're too cheap, then they'll start to kind of, horn in on Chromecast territory, and I don't think that's a battle they can win.
But I don't see why. Like, if Google owns the Chromecast product, and then they have Android TV going out to manufacturers who make their own products, it's not really...
Because Google already has a product that basically says, go fuck yourself, for $35 you can turn your TV into a relatively smart TV. And, oh, wait, we also have this thing that can make your TV a little better, I guess. Maybe for more money? Not sure. That's kind of to me. It's like
who's to say that Android TV is not going to replace Chromecast?
That's a good point.
It's one of those things where they could have been like, oh, let's test the waters with this, and then... everybody loves Chromecast, so okay, let's do a little more with it. Maybe the set-top boxes will be $50, $60.
Okay, I can see that the set-top boxes come with casting built in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
That would make sense.
That was what was supposed to happen with Google TV after Chromecast launched, but
Yeah, it's an interesting idea.
Things happen. To me, I fall in the...
I feel like still products like Roku are still just miles ahead of whatever Google's doing right now.
Yeah. Well, and at the same time, I fall into the second camp of people that you described, where I don't want cable and I just want internet TV. But at the same time, I feel like the TV... Like, if I just want internet TV, I kind of feel like TV is a dying platform. Like, it's not relevant to me. The only thing that's relevant is the screen size, but... the device itself is not actually important to me.
I don't know. I feel like there are certain things I want on TV that I still can't get elsewhere. Like, if I want local news, which, hey, I'll watch sometimes, like on the weeknights, because it's just something interesting to me. Or if I want certain cable channels that still just have, really awful internet experiences, or don't have Roku apps, or don't have apps for Android that could go to a Chromecast. So I feel like there's still that in-between ground. I don't know. When I look at what Google could do with Google TV, all I see is essentially an overpriced version of Chromecast that really doesn't do much more than its competitors.
Right now... Go ahead.
I still think there's yet another facet to this, though, because there are two kind of different paradigms of interaction. Like, Chromecast, you are... pushing content to the TV, and Android TV is telling you what you want to watch and giving that to you. Like, you are taken out of the... Like, you don't have to go find what you want. Google tells you what you want and is able...
Right,
plus
it's the accessory versus the appliance thing is really what it is.
Right.
Chromecast is a wireless dongle. Instead of plugging an HDMI cable in like we used to have to do, we now have an accessory that makes it easier to throw our content somewhere else. But,
right,
but
exactly.
Google TV, I agree. There still is a space for somebody who does content right. But ultimately, I don't even think it's about the hardware. I don't think it's about the interface. It's about whoever gets the best content deals and works with the current cable providers, or who's going to crack this. And that's really all it comes down to.
You can't deny that having Google's special sauce all over Android TV is going to be appealing. Like, that's undeniable.
If Google comes to the market with Android TV and it only supports the same apps that Chromecast supports, then it's lost before they even start the race. Because
I would agree with that.
When it comes to Chromecast app support and Fire TV and Roku, there is no comparison. Roku absolutely slaughters everything on the market when it comes to just the sheer amount of shit that you can get on the device. And then Fire TV, I don't have an Apple TV, but so I don't know about it, but then Fire TV is second, and Chromecast is way at the bottom of the list as far as, I mean, all the big guys are there, but when it comes to like the more obscure stuff or the more niche stuff, you're going to find it on Roku before you find it anywhere else.
Yeah,
so if they can't compete with that right out of the box, then there's no hope.
Yeah, that's the thing. Google's never understood. Google's never been able to play nice with old school media companies. I mean, look how long it took Google Music to get off the ground. It took so many. I mean, how long iTunes had already been in place, and things like Spotify. It makes it really hard for me to believe that they'll be able to do this in a meaningful way. And the other thing to me, it makes no sense that there need to be third-party hardware partners to do something like Google TV.
Yeah.
Or Android TV, or whatever it's going to be.
I
don't care what's in the box as long as it works.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's Asus or Samsung. I don't care if it's in the TV. Well, I do care if it's in the TV because I think that's dumb. It should be out of the TV. But I don't care what's going on inside. This is not a big deal to me.
It's
I
kind of
agree 1,000%
I think you do
with
if there's
that.
gaming involved.
Well,
it's kind of
that's yeah.
I think you care.
If
I think you
they
care
could-
the hardware. I'm looking at my I have a Fire TV, and that thing, it's killer for gaming. The only thing that really kills it is the size of the storage space on the device. So,
I know.
really
My
think
Fire TV is basically full, and I don't really have anything on it. I mean, I have a little
mine
bit of
is
stuff.
too, and I don't have it. I have like one decent sized game, and that's it, and it's full.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's like I think basically mine is full with The Walking Dead season 1 game. From
So Fire TV
Telltale
downloads the episodes?
No, he's saying the
yeah.
game.
Well, I mean the games.
Oh,
the game.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's completely full. So yeah. I mean, if Google did something like that now, if they did something like Chromecast combined with gaming and they had more app support.
I think they
do
have to,
to.
because otherwise
that could ultimately be badass.
You've got to prove that people want apps on TV, and I don't think anybody's done that yet.
But it's a different sort of app, though. I think I don't think it's like I don't want like shit. I don't know something. I don't want Facebook on my TV. I don't want Google Plus on my TV. I don't want Twitter on the TV. I don't really even want a browser on my TV because it's a pain in the ass. But what I do want on my TV, I want Watch ESPN. I want
but
obviously
that's not
HBO Go.
That's
and
just a
Netflix.
really smart channel. That's basically what you're
I mean,
asking
but
for.
And that's exactly what they need. They don't necessarily need. They need channels. I mean, that's exactly what they need. And I mean, on Roku, they don't even call them apps out of the gate.
They call them channels.
They call them channels because that's exactly what they are.
Yeah.
So it's a different approach. And the problem is, though, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a hurdle to jump because when you think, Android TV, you automatically equate that with apps. You don't think there are going to be entertainment channels. It's, what apps is it going to have? Whereas when you think of Roku or even Fire TV, it's channels. What channels does it have? In my head, anyway. That's how it works.
I don't see Android TV focusing on apps at all. I think it's going to be all about content, and it's more like you don't care where the content is coming from as long as it's what you want.
That's
I
that's
think
what
we
it
should
is.
start have a universal search kind of thing where you search for a thing and then it gives you like 5 different sources of where you can get.
And I mean, we know that search is going to be on there, and that they want to make it so that the content is just right there, smacking you in the face as soon as you turn it on. So
and that's the biggest problem right now with Fire TV. I mean, if you use voice search and you search for a movie, it searches Amazon, and that's it. If they can make it so, if they can make it so you can search, Hulu, Netflix, YouTube, whatever, Redbox, Instant, any of the streaming services, all at one time, then that would be badass. Because I mean, Roku does something similar, but
it's coming.
The whole Roku thing is kind of.
I see that happening. I could see account management, like you would add your Hulu account, for instance, content. It'll search like Play Movies and then Hulu, and then if you hook up your Netflix account or if you hook up whatever, It would just draw from all those sources to bring you like what it thinks you want.
See, that would be. I would want to search everything that's installed. If you install an app, it searches it. Like that's the
which fits well.
I want the deepest possible integration with search.
It fits well with their model of not really having apps per se, of just like piping content into the framework, because you're not meant to go into an app for Hulu and have all of these like different selections flying around. They just want like the content coming in the most basic manner possible.
But if if I'm a content provider that isn't one of the power names, let's say Amazon Prime and Netflix, Hulu, if I'm one of those companies, do I want my content to show up as if it's just part of the framework, or do I want it to have my brand name all over it?
Well, there's still going to be branding. It's just they aren't going to build an entire experience. So you're not going to have a Netflix app. It'll say like, hey, this is coming from Netflix. Like here's whatever Netflix name.
I think it'd be pretty easy to show where it's coming from, and people pay attention. I mean, I like to think people would pay attention to that kind of stuff. So I don't know.
All right, well, I think let's get things moving along. We do have a little bit of an update regarding some search functionality we talked about in the Android in the car experience. Apparently, there's a new kit functionality that might be in the works, right, Liam?
Yeah, so kit is kind of like partially the mobile counterpart to Android in the car, but it's not just for the car. It's for the car and any time when you should not or could not be looking at or touching your phone. So it will be able to go into the special eyes-free mode with a very stripped-down interface that it'll work a little bit differently. So you have search, but when search gives you voice results, it'll actually read everything instead of showing you a card. So if you ask what's the weather in LA, it won't say like here's the weather in LA. It'll say like it's 72 degrees and tomorrow it's going to be whatever. And then the whole thing is about reducing the interface to the very most basic point. So it's basically just the breathing search ball thing. You ask it stuff, tell it to do things, whatever. But the other part of it is, yes, it breathes. It goes up. It gets bigger and smaller. Breathing search ball. That's the official term. Yeah, so it'll do stuff. The other part of it is that they want to add always-on listening. So even if your phone is not on while it's in the car, you can say like, "Okay, Google," and it'll pop up and say, "Okay, what do you want?" But the thing is that at first, anyway, it's going to have some limitations. So you can wake it up from the screen being off, or you can wave at the top of the screen with your hand, but it's going to have to be plugged in and charging. So my guess about this is that eventually that restriction will be lifted for devices that have the hardware capable of always-on listening, which would be Snapdragon's 800 family, and other devices will still have to be charging because they want to bring that functionality to every device. It's just a matter of the battery hit. So while they're still figuring out how to fine-tune the battery, it'll probably still have that limitation, but it will eventually go away for devices that are capable.
I have to tell you. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I think this is a really smart implementation from what we've seen so far. It looks really. There was a lot of thought given into how to take the interface and boil it down to what it needs to be without losing information, but also without distracting the user and possibly crashing their car or ruining their souffle or something.
I was just going to say, I was a big Knight Rider fan as a kid, and I have to tell you, if they get William Daniels to voice the interface, I'm going to go out and buy a black Trans Am like tomorrow.
That's what everybody's saying. This is just an internal name for now, but maybe that would be.
Oh my God!
They're going to call it Kid. That'd probably be copyright infringement. I'm sure. Who is that?
Oh, they don't buy the right.
I don't think it'll be.
They should call it.
I don't think that's going to be
K and just give it an evil twist.
No, that's been done, Matt.
I know it was in the show.
I know.
That's what I was referring to.
Kit and car. So William Daniels, if for those of you youngins in the chat room, is also Mr. Feeney on Boy Meets World, and he was the voice of Kit.
Yes.
Is he in Girl Meets World? Do we know?
He's gonna be.
Good.
Yep.
Oh, that's still not out, is it?
All right, so let's move on to the hot sheet.
Hot sheet.
All right, so we finally got an official announcement of the Galaxy S5 Active. It is official. It is going to be available very, very soon, and in a couple of colors. Cam, what's going on with the Active S5?
Okay, so this is basically the S5 minus the fingerprint reader and plus a rougher, tougher exterior. It's waterproof. It's dustproof. It can take a beating, and it's camo. It's also, there's a green camo. I guess that's green camo. Yeah, green camo, a blue camo-ish, bluish camo, and then one that's just red. It looks like a tank type phone, and actually I think it's pretty badass looking. I'm not gonna lie. I would totally rock the shit out of that green camo one. I mean, I'm not gonna go buy it, but I think it's pretty awesome. So
I would rock the shit out of that.
I would rock the shit out of it. So it's $200 on contract, $715 off contract, $715 off contract. What in the hell is that? I don't even know, but it's too much. That's what it is. Anyway,
well, it's still less than what the original Note was on the contract.
It doesn't matter.
Wasn't the original Note $800?
It's still too much.
I spent $699 for an iPhone when it came out. $700 is not bad.
It's too much.
I guess.
Yeah, apps.
It's too damn much.
Not bad.
I think the Active line is so cool because it's like a ruggedized phone for people who would otherwise be using like some piece of crap, or who back in the day would have like a Nextel push-to-talk thing. But now they can have like a real phone that does cool stuff, but it's also durable.
Yeah, I totally agree. And do they make cases for the Actives? Can you like take your Active and put it in an OtterBox to make it like even more?
It's actually just like a lunchbox with a window in it.
Yeah, I mean, because if you can get an Active and then stuff it in, if they make an OtterBox for it, that's what my dad probably needs. So he doesn't. I mean, I don't even think he could break that. I don't know, maybe he could. I've been pretty impressed with some of the breaks that he's managed to do on phones, so even inside cases. But I don't know.
The S5 actually wasn't the only
Nigel Thornberry turn-by-turn voice. Totally should.
I don't know what the hell just happened.
Nigel Thornberry?
Everybody at once.
Yes.
Do we have some delay? I think there's some delay somewhere.
There is. There's actually a bigger delay than usual this week.
Yeah, I can tell.
It's weird. I'm not here at all.
All right, so this wasn't the only handset that Samsung announced this week. They did officially unveil their first ever Tizen smartphone. So that's a thing, right, Kim?
Are they teasing us with Tizen?
They're teasing us with Tizen.
It is. So it looks a lot like, an Android phone, only it's not an Android phone. It's a Tizen. I can never remember which it is. Tizen. Anyway, it's one of those phones.
We have to stop.
I'm stopping.
Tizen. That's what it is.
Is it because we need to discuss pronunciation of Tizen?
Okay, we can unstop.
Okay,
unstop.
So unstop. It's it's a Tizen phone. It's a 4.8-inch display, 720p. It's got an unnamed 2.3 gigahertz quad-core chip, 2 gigs of RAM. I mean, it's spec'd,
We'll
like most
Sammy.
relatively high. What?
You said he was unnamed. We'll call him Sammy.
Okay, Sammy. It's a 2.3 gigahertz Sammy quad-core processor. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, like a moderately high-end spec'd phone, running Tizen 2.2.1. You know what? This means not shit for Android, basically. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there. This doesn't mean anything. I'm sure adoption is going to be stupid low. I mean, we already have the big players in in the mobile OS game at this point, and I feel like it's honestly too late for somebody else to really come in and make a name. We are where we are, and it'll be a while before anything changes that. Tizen is not going to be the thing that does it. I don't know. I don't know if this is even going to be released in the U.S. Maybe there's info about that, and I'm just not aware of it. I don't know. Maybe since they're developing it in-house, they can. Well, no. I mean, Android is basically free, so I really have no idea what the point of Tizen is. Tizen. I'm going to say it 3 ways every time.
You know what it is? It's leverage for Samsung to be able to negotiate by saying, "Hey, well, we have our own stuff." So even though there's no real,
and then Google could be like, "Yeah, you have your own stuff with a basically non-existent app store and no customers who are using it. So what do you have over our heads?"
But it doesn't matter.
These phones are for markets where Google doesn't have any penetration. That's what they're for.
That's what they. Yeah.
Because Samsung's going to end up with a basically higher profit margin because eventually that's what their plan would be. Because they'll control the App Store, and so they'll be getting the money people are spending on content and other things because they'll be able to put sponsored content on phones, etc. So these would probably be a big push in Africa, certain parts of Southeast Asia, certain parts of Eastern Europe, maybe some parts of the Middle East too. These are for countries and regions where Google doesn't have a reach, especially. That's what it's really all about. Samsung could never realistically hope to push a Tizen phone outside or inside Western Europe or the United States or probably even Latin America at this point.
So what you're saying is that the Galaxy S3 is not going to get updated and switch to Tizen?
All right, so let's move on to Computex. Asus is there at their computer conference thingy-jigger, and they had some devices to announce this week, a whole bevy of devices, right, Kim?
Oh my goodness, yes, a whole bunch. But specifically, I kind of only really want to talk about one. I want to talk about the Transformer Book V. It is literally the device that we have always joked about Asus making, where you take a phone and dock it into a tablet and then dock it into a laptop base. And I mean, it is literally the turducken phone that we have been joking about since, Jesus, man, since like the original pad phones and Transformers were announced. So this one, it runs Windows, it runs Android, which I guess most people remember a while back when I guess Microsoft and Google basically both just kind of put the hammer down and said, no, you can't do dual boot things anymore. So Asus has found a way to get around that somehow because they had to pull all their dual boot stuff off the market. Whoa, my camera just went crazy and unfocused. Anyway,
well, I think the key there is isn't the processor in the tablet for Windows?
that's where I was.
It's like I think all the hardware for Windows is in the tablet, and all the hardware for Android is in the phone. So technically, it's two different devices. It's just a dockable display.
Yeah. I was going to go with I was going to bring that go that direction. So that's I just couldn't remember. I was getting confused in my head which where all the hardware was. But you're exactly right. All the hardware for Windows, it is. It's two separate devices that can actually work together. So it's not technically a dual boot device. It's two different things. But anyway, I actually think it's kind of cool. I think this is pretty kick-ass. I mean, it's I don't know. I mean. But I like all this kind of crap that Asus does. I think if anybody else did it, I'd be like, oh, that's stupid. But for some reason, I guess I've been so impressed by Asus hardware when it comes to stuff like this. I'm like, wow, they can really pull this off because the stuff always seems to work the way they say it's going to work, which I think has been everything that I've used from them like this has been like that, and I feel like that's the most impressive thing. So the phone has 2 gigs of RAM, and the laptop gets 4 gigs of RAM. The phone gets 64 gigs of storage, which is pretty damn nice, and the laptop gets 128. So, I mean, you're basically looking at a high-end phone or a moderate, phone, upper range phone, and an Ultrabook. No price though. That's the hell of it. Which I don't know. I mean, Asus has done a pretty good job of being able to reasonably price this kind of crap. This one, I don't know about it though. It may be up there since you're looking at.
Yeah, Asus has done a pretty good job of reasonably pricing their crap. Pretty good about pricing the crap.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, Johnny Shee is like, so how much should we price this crap? And they're like, oh, I don't know.
And then
Let's
he
do
gives
some
you prices that are way too high, and then he gives you the actual price.
Yeah, he's like, how much is it? And he does that. You're right. It's like, no, it's not $5. It's not $3,000. It's not even $2,000. It's $1,899.
It's like one of those TV commercials where you call the 800 number at the end of the commercial with the blue screen.
It's 4 easy payments of $369.99.
So I've totally figured out how they're going to advertise this thing, by the way.
All right.
The guy's going to show a picture of the dog to the girl. She's not going to be impressed. He's going to dock the phone in a tablet, show her the picture again. She's still not impressed. This is a hard one to please. So then he's going to take out the lap dock, and he's going to put it in there, and he's going to open the same picture in MS Paint and draw a little wizard hat on the dog, and then she's going to be impressed.
See, I was like, you better be going somewhere good with this. And then you busted out the wizard hat, and I knew it could be no better.
Yep. That's what
I like it.
So it's going to take in the future. You got to have wizard hats on your dog.
You know, it's like, that kind of makes me want to be the chick in that commercial. I kind of want to be won over by a dog in a MS Paint wizard hat, so...
Would you be won over by a dude with a dog and a wizard hat?
I think I would be, actually.
I just wish somebody would put in that much effort to impress me.
A dude with a dog and a wizard hat.
I know. I mean, seriously. Like, nobody's ever put in... People are like, oh, you're not impressed by this? Whatever, you're not worth my time.
You.
Like,
Nobody's ever drawn a wizard hat for me.
What if I am worth your time and you didn't draw a wizard's hat, so you'll never know?
Yeah. You just didn't go that mile.
Didn't go
I
to the
actually
wizard
have
hat.
a story that involves a dog and a wizard hat.
You do.
I don't know. Do I want to hear the story? I don't know if I want to hear the story.
No.
No. You should tell it at the end of the show, and then we can put it in the greatest hits episode at the end of the year, and you'll have to stay tuned to hear it.
I'll tell it in my mind.
Okay.
That's fun.
Cool.
Cool story, bro. All right, so...
I remember that.
Yeah. All right, so AT&T had some exciting news this week for Samsung tablet fans. Starting tomorrow, or June 6th, for those of you who are not joining us live, you heathens, the Galaxy Note Pro 12.2 and the Galaxy Tab 4 10.1 will be available at your local AT&T retail location. Prices are going to be as follows. The Note Pro 12.2 will run $799 cash money. That's the outright price, or you can pay $45 a month through the next program. The Tab 4 10.1 will run $379.99 outright, or $24 a month on the next program. You do have to kind of keep in mind, if you're thinking about doing the monthly installment plans, that will cost you an extra $100 over the course of those 20 payments. So choose wisely.
Verizon will offer the HTC One M8 in Glamour Red and Amber Gold starting on June 5th. So if you want your phone to have a porn name color, June 5th. Here we go.
All right, so you may have heard that there's a Nexus update to Android 4.4.3 that's rolling out. Well, we've got a little bit more good news. The rollout has currently started to the Nexus 5, the Nexus 4, and the 2013 Nexus 7, both Wi-Fi and LTE versions. Oh, yeah, and the Nexus 10 as well. But even better, if you're not the patient type who likes to wait for OTAs to roll out, we do have zip files for all of those various devices over on the site. In addition, the updates rolling out to the Google Play editions of the One M7, the One M8, the Galaxy S4, and the Sony Xperia Z Ultra. Those zip files are available for download on the site as well. And last but not least, we don't have zip files for them, at least not yet. But we are hearing that the Moto unlocked versions of the Moto X, the Moto G, and the Moto E will be getting Android 4.4.3 updates this week. So they should be coming out very soon, keeping with the tradition from Motorola of ultra-fast updates. So,
are you already down to me again?
I'm down to you again.
That's awesome. The Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 LTE edition is now getting KitKat, and it's currently hitting Nordic countries. So if you've been living in the Nordic countries, you'll be getting your KitKat.
All right. New updates rolling out to the original Galaxy Gear.
They knew exactly what I was saying, by
did.
the way,
Mm-hmm.
because I speak a fluent Nordic country racist stereotypical accent.
Yes, you just completely killed our Nordic audience. We're not going to score on those demographics now.
I thought I was on the Nordic track, but I guess I wasn't.
All right, so there's a new update rolling out to the original Galaxy Gear, which replaces its Android operating system with one of the Tizen or Tizen persuasion. This, of course, means a few things.
Tizen persuasion.
The Tizen persuasion. Maybe that's an episode title.
I don't know if it is, but it's funny.
All right, so this, of course, means a couple of things, both good and bad. The bad, of course, is that your data will not be retained and you will likely lose some functionality with your third-party apps. The good news is that it will have better performance and battery life, and since it doesn't run Android anymore, we won't ever have to talk about it again on the show.
That was supposed to be my kids going, yay! I'll put that in post.
Okay. He really wants to talk about it.
I'm just glad that you got that sounder. The kids going, yay.
Yay!
The one. I know it's exactly the one that I'm thinking of.
It is.
Everybody knows exactly what that one is. I don't know why either. I want to know the history of that sound.
It's kind of like the baby laugh sounder. Like there's one sound of a baby laughing that everybody uses.
I don't have that one. I probably do have that one. It's voicemail time!
Voicemail!
All right, we're going to start off. Does anyone particularly want to read the voicemail this week?
Not
It's so close to the real thing.
It's close. It's close.
Well, last week we put out a little bit of a challenge. We said if you're, what was it? You had to have at least
150 words.
Like 250 words or 150.
Right, you had to have at least 150 words, and Google transcription had to get your message right. And if it did, Matt would wear a Sailor Moon costume for an entire show.
By the way, that was a one-time deal, one-time offer.
Oh, come on.
Extended.
He would have been wearing the skirt every week, but you guys wouldn't. I would be the only one that would get to enjoy that one.
Maybe he already is.
Well, no, he just doesn't wear pants. So, first...
That's why he said he would enjoy it, because it would be more cover-up than what
I was going to say. He rips them, and I got skid marks on my chairs over there.
Right.
So...
Okay.
Leo's like, oh, God. It's only went somewhere. So, voicemail this week from Brian. Hey, guys. It's Brian. Well, here's my attempts, plural, at getting a perfect. Period. Google Voice. Period. Transcription, yo, ARI. Period. It took me so long to call, but I've been battling with allergies and wanted to make sure that Google would be able, period, to discern, period, my voice, comma, yeah, here is my question, period. What is your preferred message, period, no question mark, for route, period. Do you use period and really debug bridge, period, for period? And they put a lot of periods in here. And all in one message, period. When an over-the-air update is released, period. Do you maintain your dock recovery, comma, on your device, period. So you can reach me in the update with a losing your data, period. Or do you go with the custom recovery and slash a file, by, period. What a software, period. Do you use for creating backups? Comma. In general, period. None of these are questions, which is really great because actually there's no question mark in the whole thing. We don't have to answer anything, by the way. So, what advice, period, could you offer, period, as the listeners, period, when it comes, period, to route, period? What or some of your habits you recommend? Yeah, finally, yeah, here. It's an extra statement to exactly reach, period. The requested, period, chow of 150 words, period.
It's important that you know it's 100 in
50 words.
What a software, period. So that's my favorite part.
So actually,
I will say that's the closest. That is the closest it's ever gotten, I think.
Which is a reflection on the sad state of Google Voice transcription.
Now we shall listen to the message in all of its periodless glory.
Hey guys, it's Brian. Well, here's my attempt at getting a perfect Google Voice transcription. Sorry it took me so long to call, but I've been battling with allergies and wanted to make sure that Google would be able to discern my voice. Here is my question. What is your preferred method for root? Do you use Android Debug Bridge or an all-in-one method? When an over-the-air update is released, do you maintain stock recovery on your device so you can receive the update without losing your data? Or do you go with a custom recovery and flash a file? What software do you use for creating backups? In general, what advice could you offer us, the listeners, when it comes to root? What are some of your habits you recommend? Finally, here is an extra statement to exactly reach the requested count of 150 words.
So as you can hear, the way that was said and the clarity of the speech, there's no way in hell that Google Voice is ever going to get anything right. It's just
no.
I don't think you can hope for a voicemail clearer than that.
No, that was
well,
good.
I think the enunciation was great in his Midwestern way. It was very good, and it was very succinct, and it was very. And by the way, that's not anything negative because Matt and I are also Midwestern, but I think that what we really have to go for to get the transcription right is to use very common phrases and speak them in a very normal cadence, and I think Google transcription will actually do a little better. That's my theory.
That is the recipe for a Sailor Moon costume.
The recipe for a
Common
Sailor
phrases,
Moon
but
costume
there's
is
no
to
recipe.
use, you know, and
Recipe for a
here's
Sailor
the
Moon
deal: it
costume
doesn't
is
have to
David
make
not
sense
be able to
either.
get.
This has to be 150 words. But actually, I think after this episode, the challenge expires, and we'll have to come up with a new one. That's for you, Matt.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
So we had another voicemail, or actually, I'm sorry. You guys want to answer that?
Yeah, so basically we can
Yes.
sum up that voicemail with what are your thoughts on root?
En route.
Okay, so I can run through mine really quickly. I always use ADB. I don't like those, rolled up bullshit things. Those one-click crap. I don't like it at all. I don't do it. I don't like it. I'm just not into it. So I always use ADB. I always flash a custom recovery because it makes it a whole lot easier to flash the required files. I use Super User to I have the pro version of Super User or whatever to protect root through OTAs, and I always download and flash them through Twerp. As far as backups are concerned, I don't do backups. I haven't done backups in like 2 years. I don't run custom ROMs, so I have absolutely no reason to do backups. And I'm getting to the point where I don't even need root. It's just so easy on Nexus devices. I do it anyway. I have a Moto X that is not rooted because it was too much of a pain in the ass and I didn't feel like doing it. So yeah, that's my quick rundown on root for me.
My process is exactly the same, except for Super User hasn't been maintaining over-the-air updatability as of recent for me.
My process is exactly the same, except all of the steps that you just listed, I skipped them.
Oh, good.
So you don't root them?
No, I don't root. I used to, and basically what it would amount to for me was when I was getting to the point where I was tired of a particular phone, I would root it and I would ROM it, and I would try to make a new phone out of it to make it fresh again, but I really just don't have the energy to put into that anymore. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like whatever. Like I said, I only do root on Nexus phones because it's just so easy.
I found that the reason that I used to root was to make my device seem like it was stock Android, but now that I use stock Android, I don't feel a need. I just don't. Nothing that I want to do requires root. So
honestly, the only reason why I still root, literally the only reason, is for this little button up here, in Switch Pro up here, to reboot my phone with one tap. If they started,
nice.
I mean, if Google put a reboot button in the damn power menu like so many manufacturers do, if that came stock, I probably wouldn't need to root, because that's literally the only thing I can think of. Why I do use Root Explorer sometimes, now that I think about it, in order to like pull system files and shit like that. But for the most part, it's that I'm gonna go look right now at Super User and see what I've granted access to, because I want to know.
Actually,
I can't even.
I did use Root Explorer to enable software buttons on my old Evo LTE and turn off the backlight for the passive buttons. Yes. That is
better
the
battery
level
stats.
at which I was.
Yeah, better battery stats. I forgot. I have Root for that, so if I'm having weird battery issues, I can see the partial wake locks.
I haven't rooted a device since I had a Droid Bionic almost 3 years ago.
Wow.
And that's when I stopped, because that was like the shittiest phone in the universe. And I just had to not make it not shitty, and nothing you could do could make that phone not shitty. And then after that, what phone? I got a 1X after that, I think. Yeah. And I was happy with that, and I didn't do anything to it. And that was it. And that was the last. It was the last device I rooted.
I can function just like perfectly without root, and mostly, I mean, if I got a device, if I bought something, or like I said, I mean, I have a Moto X that's not rooted because it's too much trouble. I'm not going to go through a bunch of trouble to root a device because I don't absolutely need it in any way.
All right, so we got another voicemail that's not on the spreadsheet because it came in kind of last minute. But Bob, you have that one loaded and ready?
This one I don't believe as well met the requirements of the challenge, Matt.
Well, definitely did not.
This one says P008P. It's part of the D, J, and this week I'm going to deviate from my standard questions about personal and down into the, quote, toxic else too, but I'm, quote, the, and what users has been placed in. My question is, why does anybody understand the reason why I am going so fragmented is because the manufacturers and the error reason why, I went to the same line, and time providers have to put their damn sauce. All of the frigging phone in Android Silver. The solution that we can meet, or what would enjoy to play and be to close that gap, and perhaps lock down the Android operating system in an effort to make a little bit more pure, or I can get those days growing numbers where they need to be. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go snuggle people, and I would like the DJ.
Well, I mean, if you could repeat the question.
Now, the interesting thing there,
use it in a sentence.
I need to go snuggle people.
His transcription had like 0 periods, and that's why I read them all as run-on statements, whereas Brian's had a period like every other word. So let's hear what.
Oh my goodness!
Piper
I feel sorry for her. Oh.
Hello, AP. It's Piper the DJ, and this week I'm going to deviate from my standard questions about personal and delve into the, quote, toxic hell stew, unquote, that us Android users have been placed in. My question is, why doesn't anybody understand the reason why Android is so fragmented is because the manufacturers and the airtime providers have to put their damn sauce on the friggin' phone. Is Android Silver the solution that we need? Or what would Android's plan be to close that gap and perhaps lock down the Android operating system in an effort to make it a little bit more pure and get those distro numbers where they need to be? Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go snipe a pee hole. I'm Piper the DJ. Good night.
I love how snipe a pee hole is now snuggle people. I think the only thing that would have made it better is if the transcript would have said, I need to go snuggle pee hole.
Snuggle pee hole.
Well, you can snuggle people and snipe the pee hole at the same time. Just throwing that out there.
Okay, I'm gonna go first on this one, if there are no objections. Okay, well, too late. I already started. So, yeah, I mean, the problem is partially that manufacturers have to put their skins on it, but the other half of the equation is carriers approving the software. I think that the Toxic Hell Stew quote comes from a context that I put very little value in, because a lot of the vulnerabilities that are talked about in media, such as ZDNet, are kind of overblown a little bit. So I wouldn't call Android a Toxic Hell Stew vulnerabilities in the first place just because it's fragmented. Also, I don't think Android Silver is the answer to this, because there's still going to be manufacturers putting their sauce on the phone. It's just going to be another kind of another set of phones that Google's going to be updating while the manufacturers still do what they want with your other devices. And also, I'm not really sure if the distro pie chart needs to be, I mean, it could be better, sure, but it's definitely not a Toxic Hell Stew, and I think the point is that Apple wants you to believe that this is a huge problem. I mean, it is a problem, but bigger than it actually is, and that Android phones are unsafe because of this.
So
and that was one of the
turn
main
the
points.
vibrator off.
But, I mean, I think Google's addressing this not by locking down Android or by getting on manufacturers' backs, but by shifting more back-end things to Play services. So the main problem with fragmentation, as I see it, is developers knowing what to target when they're building an app. So for the functionality that they want to use, like what's the minimum platform that they can target, and obviously people don't want to be targeting all the way back to Gingerbread when there's super cool new features that you can use in 4.4. But I think that that's part of the approach, is moving some of those things, some of the back end, like for Play games and stuff, into Play services where it's not in the core OS and it can be updated whenever Google wants, because they control that part of it.
I think
so. That's my answer.
I think that the biggest thing is it can be reduced to a fairly simple set of circumstances. Does the average, let's say, 18 to 50-year-old smartphone-owning person care if they're running the latest version of the underlying operating system of their device, or if an update accidentally corrupts all of their archived text messages? It really comes down to what average people care about, and average people make up this huge swath of users. And a single small bug that affects maybe 1 in 100 people could be a PR catastrophe for somebody like a Samsung or an LG, where an update has this massive bug, even though it's a small bug, and even though it maybe only affects one app, even though it doesn't actually affect the usability of the phone, you get thousands or tens of thousands of people complaining that this happened and that they'll never buy X brand phone again. Because I don't know about you guys, but when I talk to my parents about the phones they buy, it's always the one thing that went wrong that makes them say, I'm not buying this again. I did an update and it screwed this up, and I'm never buying this brand again because they screwed it up.
Yeah, people don't go on the internet to talk about how great things are.
Yeah. Really what it is, and manufacturers are just terrified of this, and the carriers actually know this more than anybody, because most people don't even associate the manufacturer of their phone with the problems they have. It's AT&T's fault, or it's Verizon's fault. Verizon did this to my phone, and they screwed it up.
Right, and I think another thing is, like, you're right, average people probably don't actually really care. Like, my mom, for example, did not care that KitKat was available for the S4, like, just didn't care. And so, I mean, we care about it, but that's the thing, is that Apple's goal with the Toxic Health Stew thing was to convince people that it is a big deal. Like, they have not convinced people that it's a huge deal yet, so they're saying, like, this is super scary, look at this guy, he said Health Stew, doesn't that terrify you? Like, now you should be worried. But iPhone, we always update on time. Everybody, 90% of people have their update. So
yeah. And it's not to say that it is a problem either, because it is. Because, like some people are saying, it's a problem for developers who have to develop all these different versions of Android, and where they can never get the same experience across devices and platforms because they're constantly having to work in for all these variables. Where it's just not worth their time at a certain point.
I think people need to realize that, and this is like everyone, there really isn't a huge difference from Android 4.2 to where we are now. I mean, there just isn't. There's just not a massive difference. I mean, what, you get white icons in the bar? I mean, well, it's just...
There's a difference from what developers are able to do, though. But again, Google's kind of trying to formulate an approach to remove some of that hassle so they can add new features, but it isn't totally reliant on the phone being up to date, on 4.4.3.
Keep in mind, this was a developer conference as well, so when we're targeting, I mean, if you think about it, it is a health stew for developers, but not for security reasons, which is what they try to scare you with.
Well, WWDC is a developers conference, but the keynote is a press event.
Certainly, it's carried by the press, but again...
Also, what really pisses me off about stuff like that is that they're comparing all Android devices to the iPhone. If they really wanted to compare apples to apples, they need to compare the iPhone to the Nexus line, because that is Google's equivalent of the iPhone.
Or compare...
I mean, and they're up to date. They're always up to date. So that whole Toxic Health Stew bullshit, I mean, somebody could fucking choke on that.
Well, even if they didn't compare it to just the Nexus line, they could compare every iPhone and their functionality to Android, because even if iPhones get like iOS 8, for instance, that doesn't guarantee that they're getting all of the features of iOS 8. So like the iPhone 4 didn't get Siri, right? It got the update, but it didn't get Siri. So it's kind of like masking
that's a great
the issue.
point.
And on the flip side of that, the way that Android has split up some of its features, it's kind of the reverse, where some people who don't get the updates do get the features.
Right, and again, Google's breaking out more of these apps into the Play Store and breaking out some of the back end into Play services. So they're trying to like take it apart and make it so that it's not so there's not such a big disparity between version bumps on the OS.
That's definitely true. Google is trying to basically, I think of Google as like the executive branch of the Android government, and that they are trying to use all these essentially workarounds to exert their power over the ecosystem in ways that basically their open sourcing and the Open Handset Alliance don't allow. So they're basically just kind of using their powers to move around and basically impose more restrictions, and to also just make their grasp over the way an Android phone works greater through that Google Play Services system. And I think Android Silver is going to be basically the philosophical culmination of what Google wants to do there in terms of controlling the experience as much as they can, while still letting manufacturers have a personality at the same time. Whether or not that'll work, we'll see. But I mean, Google is very much, as much as they have in the past said, fragmentation isn't an issue, and as much as Android fans will say, oh, fragmentation, it's a dirty word and it's misconstrued and it doesn't mean anything, Google obviously very much cares about it, especially from that developer standpoint. Fragmentation is important for developers. When you're working with, we're at API level 19, and so there's over a dozen available APIs that developers theoretically have to account for when developing a modern Android app. And that's ridiculous.
And even if fragmentation were not an issue, it's made an issue mentally, you know? It's entered the consciousness
Oh, of
as an
course,
issue.
definitely.
So it has to still be addressed.
That's very much true.
Yeah, it's a made-up issue. That's exactly right, especially now more than ever. But whatever.
As long as people think it's an issue, it's an issue.
Man, it's just like, I feel like talking about this is like beating a dead horse to death again.
So let's
zombie
talk
horse.
about removable batteries then instead.
Oh
Can we
god.
talk about those.
SD cards.
No.
SD
Let's talk
cards,
about
yeah.
removable batteries with SD card slots inside them.
Oh my
Holy
god.
crap. I got a 64
my
gigabyte battery.
Wait,
My battery to put my SD card in my phone.
Hidden SD card slots.
SD card
Yes.
slots with confetti.
You have to look at just the right angle and just put the card in there anyway. Even though it looks like there's not a slot, it'll go through.
I think the first manufacturer to come out with unique puzzle box backs to their devices that allow you to get to a secret SD card slot will totally sell tons. Do it.
I just imagine it being like the secret box. You just lift out the battery and there's a secret string which reveals a
I'm
secret
talking
compartment.
to you, Lenovo. Do it.
Oh yeah. All right, guys, let's close this thing down.
We
I'm
got some-
starving.
We got some contests going on the site this week. Android Police combining with Handy Apps to give away a 16GB Sony Xperia Z2, so that's pretty cool. Also, 20 tickets up for grabs to Lookout's Hangout with Lookout event at Google I/O this year. So if you're heading on over to Google I/O, you should make sure that you get your chance to go to the Hangout. It's where everybody's going to be, all the cool people, anyways. So, anyways, head on over to androidpolice.com/contests to get yourself entered.
Well, we hope you enjoyed the show. As always, send your feedback to podcast@androidpolice.com. You can also call us at 530-HELLO-AP. That's 530-435-5627. Find us on Twitter at Android Police, Google Plus, and Facebook. I'm going to be editing all damn night.
Yay.
Yeah, you really are.
Right,
That was a
before we end
really
the
long...
broadcast, before we end the broadcast, we have to get the cameraman fixed on David.
The cameraman fixed on
Oh,
David.
yeah.
David is going to ascend into the ether.
Yes.
Do you know the rosary or anything, David?
No.
As you're like floating up into the light, no. I'm out of here.
Oh my god.
Yes.
He totally just went to the heavens. That was
They came back for us.
They did.
Now could you throw a key lime pie in your face?
I don't have any on me, I'm sorry.
Aww.
What about Kit Kat? Can you throw a Kit Kat at me because I want to eat it?
I like Kit Kats. Speaking
I love
of
Kit
food,
Kat social
go eat
media
something,
because-
Cameron.
Yeah, I'm quite hungry.
Okay, bye.
Kit Kat social media.
Yes.
All right,
think
I'm off
is
as well.
where I came from.
I need to pee.
Okay, bye, David. Okay, sorry, Liam.
Okay,
Were you
bye everybody. We'll talk about Kit Kat social media later.
Kit Kat and social media later. Bye.
Bye.
So, Matt,
Yeah.
I think for the rest of this on-air episode, we should totally give out spoilers to every Game of Thrones episode there is.
Okay.
All right. So starting with the most recent and then moving back